It's only natural that there will be times when two games that are very similar find themselves in the same release window. Creating a game takes a very long time when you include development and pre-production, which is how games like Dead Space Remake and Callisto Protocol released within about a month of each other. The stars have aligned once again in summer 2025 because we will be treated to reboots of arguably two of the most iconic ninja games ever made, which were both at their peak in the early 90s, with Shinobi Art of Vengeance and Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. For all intents and purposes, when you think of Ninja Gaiden, you think of Nintendo, and when you think Shinobi, it was Sega. And considering how prominent the epic competition of Sega vs Nintendo was in the 90s, it only feels right to pit these two against each other once again. Nipping this in the bud, both of these games look incredible. Both of these games look like they're going to be at least 8s, and both will be day one titles for me, but nonetheless, it feels like the perfect opportunity to compare these two titles. Let's start with a little history of each game, what's exciting about each entry, and finally, which game we are anticipating more. The Ninja Gaiden that most people are familiar with was back on the NES in 1989 when it released in North America. It might have been a beat up in the arcade prior, but as an action platformer on the NES is where the series found its calling. The story of the original is about a ninja who travels to America to avenge the death of his father and in the process, try to stop the assassin from opening up a portal and unleashing an ancient demon onto the world. Part of what made Ninja Gaiden so special was that the story was relayed to the player with a cinematic style cutscene that felt cutting edge at the time. In the span of just a few years, there was a complete trilogy on the NES, which likely came with diminishing returns with that many entries in such a short time frame. After about a decade, the series was reborn in 3D on the Xbox in 2004 and would go on to be the beginning of another trilogy. The last core original entry for the series was Ninja Gaiden 3 in 2012, which released on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. On the flip side, Shinobi first released on the Sega Master System in 1988 and would come to other systems in the years following. Shinobi was about a ninja who needed to free members of his clan who were kidnapped by an evil crime syndicate. The series followed a similar fate to Ninja Gaiden, as there was a core trilogy including Shinobi, The Revenge of Shinobi, and Shinobi 3, Revenge of the Ninja Master, with the two subsequent entries being released on the Sega Genesis and not on Nintendo hardware, as the console wars were at their peak at this time. Reception on all three of the Shinobi titles was very high, with the third entry being ranked as one of the greatest Genesis games by numerous outlets. After a misstep on the Sega Saturn, Shinobi would go on hiatus until 2002 when it was rebooted on the PlayStation 2. The last entry for the series was in 2011 on the Nintendo 3DS, with Shinobi that also received average reviews. When looking at the sales of these franchises, which is very speculative due to the lack of readily available information for that time in gaming, Shinobi has a lifetime sales around 5 million and Ninja Gaiden sales are around 8 million. When you remove the Team Ninja trilogy and all of its remasters, you see a striking similarity between these two franchises. Revealed at the Game Awards pre-show 2024, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is a blending of both eras of Ninja Gaiden. The Game Kitchen, the team behind the massively successful Metroidvania series Blasphemous, is handling development, while .emu is handling the publishing. Ragebound has not officially been called a Metroidvania, but I have to assume that since the Game Kitchen is developing the game, there will at least be Metroidvania-light elements involved. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound tells the untold chapter of what happened when Ryu went to America, as you play as the young ninja Kenji Mozu, who is from the Hayabusa village and must deal with the army of demons that has been released from another dimension. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound combines that old school pixel aesthetic, action of the original, and then blends it with the modern precision and depth from the modern titles. The hope is that Ragebound honors the originals by including plenty of animated cutscenes, as they were a large part of what felt so special about Ninja Gaiden in the first place. The trailer featured some very nice animated cutscenes, which bodes well for the final product. Back in 2023 at the Game Awards, Shinobi was teased as one of the many Sega franchises that was in development, along with other franchises that began in the 90s, including Jet Set Radio, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Crazy Taxi, and more. Shinobi Art of Vengeance is being developed by the Paris-based independent studio Lizard Cube, who were also the main developer behind the 2020 beat-em-up Streets of Rage 4. Reviews for Streets of Rage 4 were in the high 80s, and it also sold upwards of 3 million copies. Lizard Cube is only about a dozen people, but they clearly have an eye for strong art direction, as Streets of Rage 4 was gorgeous and Shinobi Art of Vengeance jumps off the screen with stunning visuals. Shinobi Art of Vengeance will see the iconic lead Joe Musashi return home only to find his village burned to the ground. Driven by vengeance, Joe sets out on a quest for revenge against hordes of enemies and larger-than-life bosses. In Shinobi Art of Vengeance, you will unleash limitless combos, acquire amulets for enhanced abilities, and harness tools to overcome obstacles and uncover new paths. On the PlayStation blog, Toru Ohara, chief producer at Sega, said in true Shinobi fashion, this is a level-based game, so it differs from Metroidvania titles, for example, where you usually explore one huge map. That being said, players will obtain certain abilities in later stages that will allow them to explore hidden areas and discover secrets that they couldn't access in prior stages. We feel that this offers a lot more depth than just clearing each stage once. This quote piques my interest, as I'm curious how they are going to entice the player to return to a previous level. In terms of similarities, there are a lot that go beyond the obvious ninja connection. The similarities begin on the surface level, as both titles have a colon in it. Both are 2D reimaginations of the classics. Both are action platformers, although both are treading into Metroidvania territory. Both are being developed by indie studios who have been entrusted with the IP, both have been dormant for almost a decade, and both are coming out in summer 2025. Both titles also share a Streets of Rage 4 connection, as Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is being published by Dotemu, who published Streets of Rage 4, and Lizard Cube is developing Shinobi Art of Vengeance, and they were the lead developers on Streets of Rage 4. Once again, this needs to be repeated and emphasized. I am very excited for both of these games, and I can't wait to play both, but when discussing my excitement level and anticipation, I am more excited for Shinobi Art of Vengeance for two reasons. To begin with, Ninja Gaiden is being developed by the Game Kitchen, the team behind the Blasphemous series, which were fantastic Metroidvanias. But the art style of Ninja Gaiden looks to borrow a lot from that series, and after 2 games and multiple DLCs, I'm ready for something fresh, and Shinobi Art of Vengeance features that freshness that I'm looking for. There is a clip that shows what is likely a super move, and it oozes style with the whole screen turning red and dragons all over. In addition, Lizard Cube showed with Streets of Rage 4 that they were able to create a game that paid tribute to the retro gameplay, but with plenty of modern touches that allowed them to strike the perfect balance, which is challenging when attempting the revival of a franchise. Finally, Shinobi Art of Vengeance is putting you back in the shoes of Joe Musashi and back where the series began, whereas Ninja Gaiden, although it is returning to the moments that began the franchise, you are going to be controlling Kenji Mozu, who stayed to protect the Hayabusa village as Ryu went to America to avenge his father's death. When I look back at the times when other things get pitted against each other, the winner is the player. With Nintendo versus Sega, it was the two consoles that were trying to outdo the other, and the result was an abundance of incredible games. And when it comes to these two Ninja titles landing in 2025, I also expect both of these to be incredible experiences that offer something very similar, but also very unique. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and find a lot more like it. Video games is a positivity-first gaming outlet. We believe that gaming should be a force for good. We focus on making uplifting content with constructive discussions and celebrating what makes games great. That's all for today, and until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.